again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait, with a case of laryngitis, but we'll make it happen.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
Welcome again, and guys, I'll try to help, but what do we got coming up for this session? We're pre-taping before our airing on Monday, thanks to Manhattan Haywood Network and EVT Educational Productions. So what's going to still be in the news when this show airs next Monday?
Well, a few things, but there was something that Bob was telling me about earlier that I'd like to get right up at the top of the show before we forget about it.
You mean
the thing to help out when people are stopped by the police.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, first of all, Eric, get better. We need your voice in here, but we will press on just the same. But last week, and I mentioned this to you, Eric, I went to the Silicon Harlem conference up at MIST on 116th Street in Harlem, and they've been doing that for 3 years now. And it's been a great experience working with them in terms of bringing tech to the inner city. And they had a number of interesting speakers, including Scott Stringer, outgoing Charlie Rangel, and others. And they had a number of good panels and speakers. And one, and I just mentioned this to Ray before we started taping, was an interesting presentation by a guy named Charles Sheffield. And he has an app called Citizen Witness. He developed it not recently, he developed it a few years ago. And what that does is if you get pulled over by the police, you can pull up this app and it'll give you a live video link to an attorney at that moment, who can advise you to your rights, tell you what you can say, what you don't need to say, and basically advise you how to deal with the situation live while it's happening. He thought of this a few years ago, got it fully funded, and it's, according to the website, it's in beta in New York State.
It's already been beta tested. It's available for some kind of download somewhere?
Yes, it'll be an app that'll, I believe, like most apps, start out on the iPhone platform. And yeah, it's in beta. It's citizen-witness.com. And yes, you can download it and try it now. There's a free aspect to it. There's a paid aspect to it. But it allows you to get that live link. And he's obviously the point of the app was to pre-connect with a group of attorneys who would be ready when you needed them and be able to speak with you at any given moment.
Yeah, I've got one key question on that.
Sure.
As you and I both know, people with cell phones in their hands tend to get shot by police who think they have weapons in their hands.
Right.
And then people with cell phones in their hands, police tend to want to take their cell phones so that they don't use their cell phones to videotape them.
And actually,
what's the response legally if a police says, I want your cell phone? Can you say, no, I'm communicating with my lawyer to make sure this stop doesn't go crazy?
You could, and that's it is a good question. And I'll have to check into the app. If the app is running live and saving the video that you just started to the cloud, even if the cop takes the phone and destroys it, that video is already in the cloud. So you have a little bit of a defense as to what happened leading up to the end of that video.
Before your phone got confiscated,
right.
Because 9 times out of 10, you remember that last story we talked about when the cops went into the Denny's or the fast food joint and demanded the cell phones of every person in the place,
right.
even though they had no legal right to do that.
But they basically browbeat the people in the room.
To giving them the phones.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
So, all right, that sounds like a very interesting app, though.
Yeah, guy's name is Charles Sheffield. I haven't spoken to him personally. I did see him at Silicon Harlem, and it's just one of the different things that are coming up in terms of citizen journalism, helping people, defend themselves. And it's an aid to the cop as well, I would think, if you get a live video in addition to whatever body cam is going on.
Okay, you think it's an aid to the cop.
Well,
the question is, does the cop think it's an aid to the cop?
Yes. I'm speaking theoretically.
I understand.
Yes.
Okay.
And the website, once again,
is citizen-witness.com. I'll double check that as we chat.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, so that's one of our public service platform messages that we try to give out now and then.
Yes, I mean we get, it's not like we get anything from that, but
No,
it's an interesting aspect.
We're here to serve.
Right.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Exactly. Another story that unfortunately is still going to be around by the time this airs is a situation with an innocent man who has served 10 years of a 40-year sentence. His name is Keith Cooper. New DNA evidence proved that he was innocent.
Tell us
as
where
well
this
as
state
this
is. When was
I'm
this
sorry,
guy?
forgive me.
So the folks know where we are.
This is in Indiana,
Okay.
with the home of the governor, Mr. Pence, who was Mike Pence, who was Donald Trump's running mate, refuses to grant this man a pardon. His reason being, I'm sorry.
Background, I understand that this man has been found to be innocent of the charges that he was...
The victim has said that he was wrong. There was a jailhouse snitch who said he lied. There was new DNA evidence introduced, all attesting to this man's innocence.
Right.
And
So now there are people in the legal system who have moved to have his conviction vacated. And the response has been what from Governor Mike Pence?
Well, Pence refused, and I'm quoting here.
He refused what?
He refused to pardon him.
Okay.
At all.
So here comes the rub.
And here comes the rub.
The evidence has turned up. Guy did not commit crime.
100% innocent.
Young man's name is?
The man's name is, I'm sorry, senior moment. The man's name is Keith Cooper.
Keith Cooper has served how many
He
years
has served
so far?
10 years of a 40-year sentence.
Okay. Now, there are people within the state's criminal justice system that have said to the governor, if I'm reading this correctly, there's been a mistake made, the evidence is incontrovertible, and this is a wrongful conviction.
Absolutely, and the ball is in the governor's court, so to speak. And he said the reason he gives for not granting the pardon is, and I quote, out of respect for the judicial process. I have no clue what that means.
No, that strikes me the same way. And the next line gets me as well. This comes after a 2-year delay where Pence claimed that Cooper's paperwork wasn't in order. So we're talking simple bureaucracy.
Okay. So see, that last line is the crucial part. The proper paperwork has already been submitted to get this man's conviction vacated. But the governor, the man by the name of Mike Pence, has said, I don't like the paperwork. It's not the proper paperwork. And so based on the paperwork technicality, he has refused to act. All right. I remember reading something of this when you guys sent it to me. It seemed as if Mike Pence is trying to kick this down the road to give it to the next governor because he's leaving office when this year's up.
That's what it sounds like, but it's still...
That's a pretty interesting assessment.
It's
He
unconscionable.
doesn't want that on his record for whatever reason.
Right. He's respecting the judiciary.
Out of respect for the judicial process.
Okay. But we'll keep an innocent man in jail anyway, just out of respect for the judicial process. Okay. All right. Okay. So, see, we already are into politics, even though I didn't want to be into politics again on this show.
I know,
but one of the other
know.
stories we got on this, there are no other news. You know what? Let me bring one up. Let you bring it up because it deals with our ongoing situation with police and community relations. Talk to us about the New York City last week stuff, please.
Right. That was the case up in the Bronx, right? Castle Hill Apartments with mentally unstable, and people knew that woman, Deborah Dana.
Yeah, bring it up to the rest of the viewing public.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this happened, I guess the incident was 2 weeks ago, thereabouts, but she basically had a meltdown in her apartment, and she ended up holding a pair of scissors and a baseball bat and doing a lot of yelling in the hallway and basically taking in a semi-aggressive stance. And this is a woman who has known mental issues. Scissors and a bat. Police responded with 2 bullets that killed her. And
but correct me if I'm wrong. The initial call alerted the police to the fact that this is a mentally disturbed person.
The police were alerted to her mental state.
Right.
And the procedure in that case calls for a different response, much different than what actually happened.
Right.
And that it was the key issue that got Mayor de Blasio and our new police commissioner to both say essentially at the same time, this shouldn't have happened. Procedures were not followed. She should not have been shot at.
I remember, I think this is just prior to my going out of town, I remember reading the initial response, and the immediate response was, how could this have happened? And then right behind that, the statement you just made, procedures that should have been followed were not followed.
Right.
And because of that, this woman ends up dead. But could you pick up on the ensuing flap after the mayor and the police commissioner made that initial immediate assessment? Because that's crucial to the relationship between the police, the administration, and communities of color.
Right. I mean, the police should have used what they call an isolate and contain rule for the mentally ill. That's what should have happened. And the chief and the mayor both agree that that didn't happen and should have happened. But then, unfortunately, here we go again with the head of the PBA, Police Benevolent Association, Pat Lynch, saying that, and I'm reading a Newsday story, NYPD union leader decries condemnation of cop in fatal shooting. And he basically said, and I just want to get it accurate, was a rush to judgment and political pandering. I'm sorry. This is
Lynch's statement.
Actually, let me give it to the right person. This was Sergeants Benevolent Association President Ed Mullins.
Okay.
This was this is another from
PBA official.
Another police
union official.
Yes, and he said he accused O'Neill, the new police commissioner, of being neutered by de Blasio.
Did Mullins use the term neutered, or did Lynch use the term neutered?
Well,
because there have been two things coming out, and my understanding is Lynch was the one who jumped out with this new commissioner neutered by administration.
Well, he said, I wouldn't be surprised if he said it too. I just don't have it here. We try to be accurate here.
But Mullins
said it too.
Okay.
He's quoted as saying it.
All
yes.
Right. Okay. So I could be wrong. I'm not swearing on a stack of Bibles that it was Lynch, but because Lynch tends to jump immediately after one of his men have been called on the carpet for acting improperly where it comes to procedural behavior.
Right.
Anytime, good, bad, or indifferent, if they have violated procedure, he always claims that they're always in the right and the administration is always in the wrong.
Yes.
And so the first quote that I had heard about the chief being neutered, and I may not have been paying attention to, it was a News One report that I was hearing, was basically Lynch's picture had been up on the screen, and then here comes the phrase about being neutered. I hadn't heard Rollins' name at all.
Well,
but you know, it doesn't matter.
Lynch is quoted later in the same story. I thought he made a rash call too quickly when we had an unfortunate death of an emotionally disturbed person by a police sergeant. And so quickly they determined he was wrong before an investigation, before the sergeant was interviewed, before talking to any of the people who were involved. Actually, that's kind of lightweight for Pat Lynch. He usually comes across with a bit of venom.
Yeah, and I believe I saw him on the screen when this neutered comment was being made.
Okay.
So
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm not going to
This is
categorically
the man.
lay it on his doorstep if you got a quote that
Yes.
says Mullins said it. So then
Yes.
it doesn't matter. Either one of them, when I'm looking at a situation wherein none of the right procedures were followed,
Right.
a woman who should have been treated as a mental case with the right group of people was not, and the response were, as you say, to 2 bullets, dead female, 66-year-old with a known history of having mental problems. The mayor's response, this should not have happened, I believe that's a direct quote, this should not have happened, is correct. And so for them to be upset about improper procedures, I don't think that that's displaying any non-courageous behavior, why would they be calling the police chief a neutered individual
Right.
for calling the situation correctly? I find that appalling, to put it mildly.
But true to form for what we've heard in the past, unfortunately, from the police union.
I'm trying not to talk a lot, but you
It-
guys keep giving up. So you
Okay.
remember that young lady from Black Lives Matter in the Midwest who said the worst gang that black people have to worry about are police unions? That's a paraphrasing quote, but if you look at their response to this kinds of situation, I'd be inclined to rubber stamp her assessment. Across the country, police unions are the worst gangs that people of color have to look out for. They're not looking out for our interests or our lives by any stretch of the imagination, by anything I've seen.
And I forgot to mention this to Ray before we started taping. I mentioned it to you on the phone earlier this week. Turns out she used to go to Trinity Church.
The
Deborah
woman,
Danner.
what's her name?
Deborah Danner.
Danner? She was
Yes.
at Trinity Church?
She was a member of Trinity Church for a while, and every year they have this poetry reading, and I attended not the last one, the one before, and just as a story I read mentioned, it took like 3 hours to get through all of the poets.
The posts that show up,
Yes.
right?
And I was there for the whole thing because I had a good friend who was in it too, and it turns out I probably met her there.
No.
And, just to know that, I came across to somebody who died so violently and so unnecessarily, it sort of hit me a little bit extra
I'm sure.
once I understood that. And I'll have to check my photos now. I took photos at the event to see if she's in there.
Unnecessarily, that's the key word.
Yes.
Unnecessarily. And it was, 3 weeks ago in California, or a similar incident, a woman calls the police about her either husband or
Right.
or
And
a
the,
family member
yes,
who was in a mental state, and
Yes.
he ended up dead.
yes.
Proper procedures were not followed. You would think that's fresh on the plate. It's not your police department, but it got widespread publicity. You would think you facing a similar situation, you go, well, let me not do what they did in California. Let me not. I mean, I'm not a big taser fan,
Right.
but don't
Given-
they still carry tasers? I
given-
thought
They
they did.
do.
Yes.
They do
You know,
carry
I-
tasers.
Why 2 bullets?
Yes.
So never mind. Let's move on to the next
Yes.
story.
What have you got, Bud? You want to? Well, this is the Justice Department has cleaned house in terms of the Eric Garner investigation. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I haven't heard anything.
Wait. You got to give contextual stuff to the story. Give me a break. Come on.
Okay, Eric Garner, killed in Staten Island via a chokehold administered by one of the arresting officers. As we all remember, he went down saying that he could not breathe. He could not breathe. His pleas were
Gotcha.
ignored.
Bottom line for me, right, which is why this shakeup, 2 years gone by. This thing's been sitting in the, quote, federal hopper while they investigate whether this man's civil rights were violated or anything else had gone wrong. And the family has been, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they've been very upset that there's been no progress made. We've talked about this on Media Watch before.
Sure.
And so the context is what's taking so long for something to get done on this. And now,
I think that's what.
go to where you are. Bring us up to date
That's-
on even the background internal stuff.
I don't know what the Justice Department. This is a preliminary story. They didn't really get into details.
Well, they essentially cleaned house, right?
And
They took the prosecutors, excuse me, they took the staff that was working on it and replaced them.
yes.
They said, you guys dragging your feet too much.
Right,
We don't know what's going on for 2 years. You're out of here.
right.
Okay.
This came directly from the top,
Right.
from Washington down
Yeah.
to say that, okay, you're out. This new staff is,
Now that's just Justice Department.
yes,
FBI, there are 2 guys. They've been dragging their feet evidently because those 2 guys, they're gone.
okay,
So evidently somebody within the upper levels of the Justice Department said, there's been too much New York foot dragging on this particular case. And so Justice said, new federal guys, and Justice may have said to the FBI, because the FBI moves their own personnel, blah, 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 new FBI, please. And there may even be some other third leg to that stool that may have been shaken up by this. But what was this was a New York Times report?
This was, I'm sorry.
Or a Washington Post? 'Cause we're aggregating folks as
Common
we always
Dreams.
do. So whoever's quoting whom, they were quoting some Justice Department sources about the fact that there were internal disputes going on between
Right.
Justice and FBI. Some FBI agents didn't want any charges brought against these cops, and some Justice Department says, no, we need to bring charges against these people for taking this man's life with an illegal chokehold. And so that internal dispute is basically part of the foot dragging that caused no action to be taken. And so there may even be more fallout
Right.
from that. But at least now, this thing may move forward.
There's at least a fresh start, I guess we could call it.
Well, one would hope so.
There was a quote from Eric Garner's mother, I think, to the effect that maybe now, I don't know, what she's quoted.
I didn't see her quoted in here. Reverend Al Sharpton
No, I
did
don't need
quote.
him.
He says he's cautiously
The
optimistic.
lady, the mother was quoted. in one of
I'm
the
looking,
sources that I read.
did they quote her here? I don't see it.
But this is extremely, I mean, there are personnel changes all the time, but this is extremely rare when an entire team is swapped out.
Boom.
I mean, you probably need to go back, I don't know, a decade or whatever to see another, house cleaning as this. And we have about 6 minutes. And,
okay.
And
yeah, we have 5:40.
yes, just to be clear, but yeah, it's rare when you have a house cleaning like this, just swapping out the entire
It never
staff.
happens.
Yeah,
It almost never happens.
Well, maybe, see, part of the problem, because this takes me to a similar story. What happens is there's something that didn't go right. So then there's a lawsuit that's filed. In Eric Garner case, they actually admitted there was something done wrong. Whatever the sum was that was paid to the Garner family, a lot of people go, oh, well, the family got money, so that's the end of that. Okay, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Right.
And boom, that case is closed. But you know what? The money never brings the person back to life.
Right.
And guess what? The bad people responsible for these people dying are still sitting in these police departments. And so the family, they want more money. They want that bad cop brought up on whatever he needs to be brought up on, even though the indictment on this guy, Hasty, whatever his name was in the Garner case, got thrown out by the New York State grand jury. But the family didn't feel that that was the right decision. And so they're looking to the federal government to get something done so that these bad guys can disappear off the force and people can learn that you don't kill somebody with impunity. Just because you pay blood money don't mean it's right. You remember the Remarley Graham case? The Remarley Graham case, the kid up in the Bronx
Okay.
that was
Oh,
in his own home.
Right,
And they
right.
have no warrant, but they go in there and they shoot him in his bathroom in front of his grandmother.
right.
Crazy nonsense.
Right.
Guess what? City knew they did something wrong. They settled for whatever, 3.4994, whatever. Dollars, millions, whatever. Family's still upset because guess what? I forget, Pantaleo's the one in Garner. Hasty's the one in Remarley.
Yes.
Pantaleo's still at work. He got no charges. Hasty is still at work.
Yes.
And nothing has been brought, no charges or anything. Family totally upset.
Right.
And guess what? The administration doesn't seem to be trying to move that along. At least the Garner people got elected officials trying to find out what's going on with this guy, Pantaleo, and blah, 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 blah. The Graham family, his mother and people, they don't seem to have anybody in their corner trying to find out what's going on with this Officer Hasty, who's still on whatever duty, still collecting pay, no charges, and this kid is dead. it's not acceptable.
Right.
So
I still remember the video. It haunts me a little bit because at the end of the video, when the guy's already been shot, you can see the police laughing outside
on the sidewalk.
Yes.
I know that neighborhood. My mother lived in that neighborhood, just blocks from where this kid was shot.
Okay.
It's just unconscionable that these people don't get any form of justice. They're not held accountable. And just because the city pays blood money doesn't mean it's okay. You guys got to talk. I'm losing my voice.
I was going to say, your voice might have only a couple seconds left. We have about 2:30 left.
Okay, what else we got to cover? And should we circle back around and let people know
I was just going to add.
how significant? Go.
No, they don't quote Garner's mother here, but they do quote his widow.
Mm-hmm.
And what she says, I'm hoping they follow through with it and do what they need to do to put this officer away. He needs to suffer the consequences of his actions.
Bingo. That's exactly what I think, and I think I probably felt that when I went through that thing. I can feel her pain. It's crazy. Blood money doesn't really account for that. That's
When I was in Wisconsin and covering towns and villages, when you start a police department because you want to protect the community, and you raise police from that community to protect the community. When you have someone who's not protecting the community, he goes. When you find someone who kills another man with a chokehold over cigarettes, in a small community, it's like, no, you go. But in a big city like ours, we forget that the police are part of our community, and those who don't serve us need to go. With about a minute left.
Absolutely. But, that's a problem because the police protect each other. I mean, even the good cops protect the bad cops. So how do you break down that wall?
well.
That's what I'm wondering about.
When I was a kid, I respected cops and thought cops were
I
good
did
people.
too.
And
I mean,
I
I
have
still
to
do.
tell you, now every cop is guilty till proven innocent. Right now, for real. I hate to say it, but I've now been conditioned with this stuff. It just keeps bombarding me. From the time Rodney King got whipped to death by cops, in that video, that's when I started to lose all respect. Because you know what? Those cops were just symptomatic of what that whole department was like, pretty much.
Right.
Now, there may have been some other people who didn't like that kind of behavior, but because they never, ever tried to rein those other ones in and never talked about it,
15 seconds.
then, hey, so that's enough commentary for now. This has been Media Watch. I'm Eric Tait.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Raymond Peterson.
And thanks, MNN. Thanks, EVT Educational Productions. We'll catch you the next time.